We'll call the January 9th meeting of the regular Calcasieu Parish Police Jury to order. We ask that you please silence your cell phones, and if there's anything you'd like to speak on the agenda, please fill out a blue slip and bring it to Miss Jessica at the front table. We will now have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Angelpont.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, we pause to give you thanks and praise for the many blessings that you've given us. We ask your blessing upon everyone here today and upon our parish and this nation and its leaders. May your Holy Spirit guide them, that they make decisions that are pleasing in your sight. And let us remember our deceased and disabled veterans and those men and women serving in our military around the world, that you keep them from harm's way. Please keep us where we persevere in our prayers and strong in our faith and diligent in our work and generous towards those in need. We ask all of these favors in your Son's name, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Angelpont.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Abshire?
Here.
Mr. Angelpont?
Here.
Mr. Barris?
Here.
Mr. Bowers?
Here.
Mr. Burley?
Here.
Ms. Eason?
Here.
Mr. Guillory?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Marcantel?
Here.
Mr. Quinn?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Stelling?
Here.
President Barty?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, all right. This is it for me, guys.
You sure?
This is it. This has been probably the best year I've had since I've been with you guys. Sitting in this chair, you know, I really enjoyed the view from right here, especially being able to look over there and see Mr. Stelly. But it was really good, and I thank you guys for and Miss Eason giving me the opportunity to serve y'all this year as your president. I really enjoyed it, and I want to also thank my VP for being my right-hand man, for being right here next to me. So thank you guys. Thank you, staff, for putting up with me for the past 12 months. Thank you, Miss Jessica, for showing me the way. But, you know, we have the best staff in the area, and you guys are truly committed to doing what you're elected to do, and I thank y'all. And, you know, you couldn't have picked a better president last year. So I just wanted to say thank y'all, and it's been a real pleasure. You got something to say?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say, Anthony, you did a great job. I think Anthony did 52 ribbon cuttings, about that. And that's a lot, and he carried us a long way. He told me the other day, though, now he can go play golf again. So anyway, thank you, Anthony. You did a great job.
But thank you,
Great
thank
job.
you, thank y'all. Mr. Andrew,
I want to echo that.
thank you.
You kept us rolling along in our meetings, and you did it in a professional way where we gave our input, but you moved us along and you kept things light, and that's important.
Appreciate it.
Outstanding job.
All right. Moving right along. 1A, election of president of the police jury for 2025. The floor is now open for nominations for president.
Nominate Judd Barris.
Second. There's a nomination of Mr. Judd Barris.
Nominations be closed.
Any other nomination? Hearing none. Congratulations, Mr. Barris. By the way, Judd, can I keep the president spot?
They want to take it.
Oh, congratulations, my man.
New neighbor.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you to all my colleagues for entrusting me with this position. It means a lot. It really does. We've got a great organization, and I plan to do my best to represent all of you well. All right, with that, item 1B, election of the Vice President of the Police Jury for 2025.
Mr. President, I nominate Mike Smith.
Second.
We've got a nomination of Mr. Mike Smith.
Nominations be closed.
Big Mike, it's time. Congratulations, sir.
Mr. President, only one thing, though. I see he's got a purple tie. Being a Dallas Cowboy fan that he is, I figured he'd have that Dallas blue on.
Sold out to LeGrand.
At this time, we'll present plaques to the past president and vice president.
And he's putting it tonight, so everybody has it down.
Oh, man, I get a gavel.
Second time, what you talking about? My TC's.
I wish I could take that gavel off.
Oh, no, you want to keep that.
I'm gonna take it off.
Better if you, hey, better if she can't take it.
Well, you might be right. Yeah, think of Randy. You're right. Yeah, I got some to stand up. 1, 2, 3. Tell Mike to stand up, man.
That's yours. We got some lovely boys.
All right.
Everybody all together now.
Thank you. All right. Got it. All right, item 2A, adopt a resolution approving permanent public facility servitude agreements for the East Calcasieu Parish Consolidated Waterworks Project. I got a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Motion carries. Item 2B, accept an ordinance amending Chapter 26 pertaining to community-type sewage systems. I got a,
President, I'd like to make a motion to defer to allow additional time in consideration of proposed amendments.
Second.
We already had a motion.
Yeah, we had a motion.
You didn't have a second.
Wasn't recognized by the chair. Mr. President, it's
Seconded it.
so it, in this case, the motion to defer actually takes precedence. So I will open discussion up for that motion. Any discussion? Mr. Stelling.
Everything we've been over so far, deferring this thing for 60 more days,
Didn't say 60.
or however many days you're gonna defer it, well, how long are we gonna defer it then?
There's no time frame being
Okay,
stipulated
what are we
right now.
gonna find out that we currently do not know? In whatever time we're gonna defer this item?
Well,
What
that's,
is out there left to learn is I guess is what I'm asking.
Mr. Marketell?
well, all I've heard for 5 years is we do not change business models of any business in Calcasieu Parish. With this, we're changing a business model. Do we need an ordinance? Yes, we do. But the way we get it is what I got a problem with right now, the way it's written. I think it can be written better. I think there's some common ground can be come to between the police jury and the stakeholders. I attended a meeting Tuesday morning, got a lot more information than I previously had. I think given additional time, can come up with a possible better written where stakeholders and staff can get together, throw personalities out the door, have a civil meeting. The cards. And come up with something that I think the whole jury would support.
In that, in the change that you're looking for, in the wording of everything we've been through, in other words, is that also including paying them for their infrastructure?
Not
Which is, I think, what they're
necessarily,
looking for.
No, well, it doesn't matter what they're looking for, it's what we come to an agreement on. They can look for whatever they want to. The jury will make the final decision on that.
This is true. But again, isn't that the big hill we're climbing here?
Well,
Who's gonna pay,
I
or who's
don't-
gonna pay for the infrastructure?
The
or-
jury's not gonna pay. And my belief is I will not pay for it.
Well, I'm thinking, and this is only my opinion, that's the big thing that's holding this thing up, is whether or not they're gonna be paid for the infrastructure.
Well,
I
if
don't
we-
know what else can be added to what's been done already to improve, what they're asking for. I'm kinda at a loss on that.
Mr. Landry?
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with you completely, Mr. Stelly. This is really, this isn't anything new. This ordinance goes back years and years. Yep. And this portion of it honestly should have been passed at the beginning. And that's my opinion. It wasn't. And just what was predicted was gonna happen by that has happened. I mean, it's just, you're just making the problem worse. You got these systems that they suck the money out of, and, and then they finally get sold 2 or 3 times to some out-of-town outfit, and they don't take care of it. And then we get the phone calls of the raw sewage going in the ditch. And you call and call and call, and really it's out of your control. You can't do a whole lot to help them, but they don't know who else to call. I got 2 or 3 of them in my district that are just in terrible shape. And believe me, there's a reason why they close those beaches in Cameron every summer, and it's because of what we're sending them. And it's from systems like this and those individual ones as well. And you're right, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, is who's going to pay for it. And whether it be tonight, 6 months from now, or 2 years from now, I'm never going to change my mind. That transaction should be paid for the people. The developer is profiting. He's in business to make money. And that should be built into the price of the lot. And the person that makes that decision to build the house and do all of that, they're going to pay for that because that's what they've chosen to do. I'm never going to take tax money from somebody else that has nothing to do with that transaction to supplement that. And really, yeah, that's what it boils down to. So you're going to take it over or you're not going to take it over. If you don't take them over, you're going to continue to have the same problem. In fact, right now, we got one, the subdivision, isn't but just a few years old. The sewage is backing up. And that same thing has happened. The developer has sold it. Somebody from out of state owns it. There's nobody helping them. It's not being maintained. It's just going to continue to happen. The problem's just going to keep getting worse. Tonight's the night to make the decision. I mean, I know what I believe in, but deferring it again, for what? You're still going to come back to the same spot you're in right now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Abshire?
So, Mr. Stelly, the decision to defer was an agreement between Mr. Markentile, Mr. Quinn, myself, Mr. Andropont, and it was after the meeting we had with the stakeholders, and we received some information that brought us to this conclusion. I was very disappointed that the jurors who are adamant about getting this approved were not there to listen to the stakeholders and hear what they had to say. So it's very disappointing that The ones that were there understand what they're going through, and the ones who are supporting this were not there to even listen. But secondly, my problem with this ordinance is it is going to fix problems in the future. It's not going to fix your problems, Mr. Landry.
But it's going
It's
to keep
not-
them from getting worse.
It's not going to fix what's out there. So honestly, what we need to do is fix the current situation before we even worry about what's going to happen in the future. Because this is going to do nothing for anybody.
So if I may, Mr. President, since he addressed me.
Please.
So yeah, so right now we've got 10 to fix. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. That way 10 years from now, we'll have 30 to fix. That makes no sense, none.
So what do we do with the current problem? How are you going to address that with this?
Believe me, those you can eventually take over. It has to be, right now, it's somewhat could be manageable, possibly. It's going to take millions to fix it.
I cannot support
But-
this. This is,
Well, hey,
this,
and that's
this is absurd.
fine. I get it.
So I yield.
Mr. Andrepont.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, what I've heard from stakeholders, from developers, which we do not have very many in this parish, and if we don't have development, we really don't have anything. So keep in mind, these people, to Mr. Landry's point, are businessmen. And businessmen are willing to take a risk. And no one's advocating that we as the parish pay for that. I am not. I'm not advocating that. I am in agreement. I think it should be explored, price of the lot. If it's $5,000 for a lot, if somebody's looking to pay $70,000, I do not foresee someone objecting to $75,000 knowing that the lot is turnkey. That's not the issue. What I have heard is about the process, that developers had wanted to visit with staff and they felt like they weren't getting anywhere and that their concerns weren't being heard. And I heard more about the process itself. So we owe it to these taxpayers and these developers and these investors to hear their voice. Will we all agree on everything? Absolutely not, but I think they understand that too. But to say, hey, we're not going to listen, this is what we're going to do, this is the ordinance, I don't think that's the right approach. That's why I want a deferral.
Mr. Morgantill?
Well, as Mr. Landry stated, this has been going on, I think, for about 7 years. So apparently, a good ordinance has not been presented because it hadn't been approved in 7 years. Been 30-something jurors moved through these seats up here that have chosen not to approve that. So, I mean, we got to do something besides just sitting in a corner and no movement made on stakeholder side or staff side or police jury. I don't want to say staff, police jury side. So I just think that this will open the opportunity for any juror that wants to attend. Tuesday morning was my first time to ever attend a meeting with stakeholders. And so that's, you know, that's just what, that is my belief. And, you know, we just, after discussion, pull a vote on it. And it is what it is. I can live with whatever the vote is.
Okay. Mr. Crane or Mr. Wainwright, just for clarity, how many opportunities were the jurors given in all of these deferrals? Can you ballpark how many opportunities were given to the jurors to hear these concerns? More than one? More than the one Tuesday?
Sir, we've met, we've had meetings after each deferment. We've had meetings with the stakeholders that have been coming to the meetings. They're here tonight. And we have reported those discussions back to y'all in detail, as y'all know. Just typically saying to hold juror or stakeholder meetings, that's just not how we've approached, we really hadn't approached any of these at this point, if that's the, Tuesday was the first one like that.
Okay. But that was requested by a juror?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Barty?
I sort of forgot my point. I guess the main thing for me is we talk about the process, we talk about the ordinance. I don't think there's been anything wrong with the process, in all due respect. I think staff has been open as far as meeting with developers and reporting back to us. So I don't think it comes down to us not getting the information that we need to have to make a decision. At the end of the day, we're talking about infrastructure. This is a conversation about infrastructure. And to me, we're the group that has to handle infrastructure as it relates to the parish and for the citizens of Calcasieu Parish. I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Burley?
Mr. President, I request if this deferral does pass, that you form a committee so that when it comes back to us the next time, 'cause I'm tired of kicking this can down the road. If it does pass and it's deferred, that you form a committee that's gonna meet with the contractors and staff together and then get that back to us, because this is like the third deferral on this for me. And it's been going on since like 2017, I believe.
I can work on that, but as far as I know right now, the committee was formed 3 years ago on Election Day.
I agree with you.
Ms. Mary Kay?
What I would like to see, there is so much division on this topic, on this subject, so many opposing opinions. What I would like to see is what works in other, like do some benchmarking, what works in other areas, and what are we missing? Is there something that works best for the parish and for the development community? And just have some options, and so that we can try to get more of a more together on our opinion, not be divided. Just see what works, just to have something else to consider.
Thank you. Having no more discussion, we'll do a reverse roll call vote so a yes vote would be to defer.
Kelly?
No.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Mr. Markentile?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Mr. Landry?
No.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Guillory?
No.
Ms. Eason?
Yes.
Mr. Burley?
No.
Mr. Bowers?
Yes.
Mr. Barty?
No.
Mr. Anderpont?
Yes.
Mr. Abshire?
Yes.
Seven in favor and 7 against. Tie.
President?
Motion.
No.
Vote 7 in favor, 8 against, so the motion fails.
Thank you. Item 2C, adopt an ordinance establishing 25...
Mr. President, that only resolves the deferment.
sorry.
Doesn't resolve the motion.
Deferral was denied. Mr. President, now you need a motion.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the...
So moved.
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Quinn and, a motion by Mr. Quinn, second by Mr. Landry.
Call to the floor.
The motion was by me.
Motion by
so
Mr. Staley.
The motion was by me. I made the motion.
Okay. Mr. Stelly motion, Mr. Landry second.
And Mr. President, we do have 12 blue cards for speakers. Each speaker shall be limited to 2 minutes each.
Mr. Wainwright, to the podium, please, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you, President Barrett.
Position.
I have just a brief presentation just to sort of catch up on where we're at today. Again, most of you have seen this presentation. We've been carrying it through, so it's very little change except for the timeline and just to kind of recap the things that are in the ordinance so that everyone would know what we're talking about. This is the timeline, no change, no reason to go through. We're on the last block, obviously, tonight, where we're requesting action. This is a slide as well that you've all seen before in various presentations that we've given to you to try and convey, you know, the concerns, the things that we're given and taking on, and then where we recommend. I will take a little time on these since it's just, you know, where we've started, where we've worked from. From the initial presentation, which was all the way back at the Planning and Zoning Board and before you as well, we were immediately asked, you know, to reconsider things like the mandatory takeover, reconsider what was at that time called a transfer fee that was already built into the ordinance. On the right-hand side, I've kind of tried to put things that we kind of really just agreed to kind of eliminate some of those. The transfer fee is one that immediately was kind of a bad idea that just never really worked for anyone. And if we're going to the system that's proposed, then it would be unnecessary as well. Reconsider the SCADA systems. That's really a specification question. This is just the computers that we use to monitor these things 24 hours a day and go out and check them and service them. We agree we don't need that in the requirements. There was a discussion about that. Just runs up the cost of the units. Certainly lets us, when you run systems across the parish, you need to be able to check them. So that's why it's there. But we agree we can put those in later. Not a big deal. I think it's kind of the rest where we really get more to the meat of the discussion. We need a tax incentive or a direct funding mechanism to pay for these, to get our money back. You know, that was asked. The system that we're spec'ing overall is reconsider the specs because it's just too much, a little too high of a spec. We have worked on those things, and I'll highlight those quickly. Consider regulating the operators. And look, in this case, what we're talking about here, and Mr. Landry referred to it, we have systems, y'all have systems, y'all know that are in failing mode, that have problems. And this bullet is about, let's add regulation to those that are not performing up to speed. So that's what that is trying to say. Consider maintenance escrow accounts. Another way of just saying, hey, let's set aside money for the maintenance in a delayed or transfer of the unit. So a way to, because it is real. Once these units are old and they're experiencing problems, roots are growing into the collection system, there's leaks in the catch basins, all that stuff, the pumps, you know, the various components are going out. The cost to bring them up to speed, if you would, is real. It's like any other big mechanical device. It has wear and tear. This is in the ground and especially prone to, you know, roots and cracks and things like that. Every sewer system is. And then, of course, the last one is just really, look, this move would really just hurt development in Calcasieu Parish. So those are some of the key things, not everything, but those I feel like are the key things that were brought out and have been carried along the entire way. So we agreed to eliminate the transfer. We agreed to take the SCADA system out. We agreed to set and establish a baseline unit that would be designed for everybody to use. It is, you know, we're blessed to have the Hoot system and their company here. It's their baseline spec that basically we've been meeting with and trying to build the spec to. So we really feel like we have dealt with that issue, getting it down to a legitimate baseline spec that's not a Cadillac or anything else. It's just a good sewer system that's going to run, it's going to operate if you take care of it. And then to agree to, this is one that we all agree that those old existing systems need to be dealt with. That's a separate problem. It really is. I agree with Mr. Landry. We're trying not to make it worse than it is today. In the current ordinances, there is a path for that to happen. It certainly creates a path where it has to be brought up to speed by that owner, the current owner, so that it can't get just dumped into your lap at $1 million fixer-upper, which is where we sit on some of these. And the last one is, and the one thing that in every one of the meetings we have been in, I think I can attest to this. If they want to disagree, we can now tonight, but everyone agrees that at some point these systems should be run by the parish. It's really about when and how we get there. So there's other things, but not to, if we need to, we can answer those questions. What the ordinance recommendations boil down to in a few bullets, as simple as we can really put it, is that A, it requires that community systems be built for all new residential subdivisions, majors and minors. It requires that they be turned over to the police jury with the rest of the infrastructure that comes to the police jury as part of that development. So roads, the bridges, the culverts, the water systems that are put in, all that rest of that infrastructure comes over now, gets operated either by a special service district or by us, and that's how we build developments. So this would change. That would be the transfer of the sewer system. We built in a 6-month and up to 2-year grace period for transition. This is an old wording from when we did drainage ordinances and previous ordinances where you need a grandfather clause that transitions developments that are in the pipeline, if you would, being developed, so that somebody who has already gone out and invested their money in this, that, and the next, they can finish. And really, that's not going to change the whole situation 30 years from now, a couple more. It's, if we don't make a change, I think that's when you're exposed to more problems. The next one, of course, we already said it, we're eliminating some of the easy things, not a big deal there. The second to last bullet is, publishing a set of specs. Look, we have had basically the same exact spec book since 2017. It gets, when someone's going to build something, we print it out, we give them to them, say, look, right now it's a two-way system, but you either build it to this spec if you expect us to take it, or you use this spec if you're going to build it. We're going to publish it. There was just a concern that we're going to run around changing the spec book every day. That's not what we're about. We'll publish the dates on it, and it may never get changed again unless the regulations change. But if it needs to change, we can change it. The last is, in the ordinance is that path for existing systems. So just per se, there will be work to do either way, especially if you don't change the ordinance, we have to come back. If you don't change the mandatory part, we have to come back and deal with some of these other things, but that's another day, another discussion. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. I don't want to take up more of y'all's time talking about this. I think we have had a number of meetings and everyone understands the decision. And I just, appreciate if you support our recommendation, and if not, we'll work for whatever you want.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. We got any questions for Mr. Wainwright? Mr. Landry?
I do. Thank you, Mr. President. So once again, Alan, I know you said this, but by doing this, it does contain the problem with the number that you have out there to have to deal with at whatever. I'm assuming you know what that number is.
Yes, sir.
If we don't do this, without a doubt, that number's going to grow. I mean, it's going to continue to be more of them, and maybe some of them are managed properly and maybe some of them aren't. But in time, it's just the nature of that business. They sell those things. They get the money out and they sell them. That is correct, isn't it?
Certainly, the systems get sold as assets. They are assets. They get sold, and each new owner obviously is trying to, he's in a little different leverage point in terms of a business, and the asset that he's bought, just like flipping a new car or to the next car, to the next car, next. It's a little harder to get the money out of it, I suppose. I'm not much of a businessman, so not my game. But yes, sir, they get sold. And it's when we are dealing with someone from another state who owns these and things like that, that it just, we cannot help y'all. Y'all get the calls. We can't help you at that point. That's what drives this.
And there's one way for them to make money after it's been sold that second or third time, and that's not do maintenance. I mean, they're
Certainly.
collecting fees and then they're cutting the maintenance.
And, you know, maintenance on the pumps and the motors kind of has, I want to make sure one thing is understood. The state does regulate the effluent that comes out of these systems. That gets checked, that gets tested. So you have to get a decent product out the end of the system. And when that doesn't work, and y'all have dealt with this problem, it is a long, slow train to getting that fixed. It can be fixed. The closer and the more receptive the owner is to our parish, the faster that happens. The further away they live, the less it takes forever. Y'all know that. What's hard to change, or impossible almost to regulate, is having the service side of these systems be consistent across the parish. In essence, you have every new development has a new level of service established by that owner. And that's where if the roots are causing a problem, or if a line breaks, or it's leaking somewhere, that you're gonna have some guys that are gonna run out there and fix it that hour of the first call they get. You're gonna have some who are not coming from Mississippi to fix that either. So you have both ends of the spectrum. What we deal with is the worst of the calls, especially on the service side.
All right, thank you.
Okay, no more questions. So I have several blue cards. I think we're going to go 2 minutes a person. Let's try to stay on the topic and avoid redundancy if possible. Okay, so the first person is Mr. Michael Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Barris. Thank you, jurors. My name is Michael Williamson.
Oh, I'm sorry, your name and address for the record, please.
Michael Williamson, 949 Ryan Street, Suite 130.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. I represent a group of business owners and developers that have a significant stake in this issue. What we have here is a sewer system that these people or business owners are putting in, and it becomes an income-producing asset, exactly like the administration understands. They are supposed to keep this sewer system up to date using the fees, and the people here do that. What the parish is proposing is that they pay to build it, and the parish takes it, and they don't pay for it. And in my world, that's called a taking. And you can't do that if you're the government. And so the issue we have is, how do we get around that? And we have a simple solution, and it's an incentive-based approach. And it's not something where the parish is going to go out and spend a ton of taxpayer money to buy the systems from these folks. These folks are developing these sewer systems at the cost of sometimes $750,000 for a large subdivision. What they can do over time is, if we enter a cooperative endeavor agreement with the parish, over time, using the fees that those homeowners pay, we can pay back the investment that developers in this community have made in our community. And so it never comes on your books. It doesn't affect your bonding capacity. None of those things that impact you happen if you go out and buy it from them. You're not buying it from them. They're going to dedicate it to you, absolutely. And in the cooperative endeavor agreement, there's going to be a calculation. And so over time, those fees are going to be paid off. And $5,000 is a lot of money, but that's not what it's going to increase the lot cost by. It's going to be much more.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Williamson. Mr. Tommy Eastman. Name and address, sir, please.
Tommy Eastman, 3221 Ryan Street. I guess my concern is, as y'all know, I'm with Flavin Realty. We're in the development business as well as real estate. And if the end user is the person that gets jammed on this thing, not these guys, not y'all, not our, it's when those lot prices go up, right? By the way, they just developed a 50-lot subdivision, and you're getting the tax money. You're getting this influx that wasn't there, okay? It's not going back. You're not decreasing the tax money for the end user, for your constituents. The second thing is if these guys aren't developing, then what's happening? All the prices are going up. By the way, have y'all heard interest rates? And I know y'all love KPLC with the rhetoric that they are putting out there from a standpoint which was not correct. So we're not in a market right now that is nice, right? And if we're not growing, we're dying. And to me, this is a philosophy issue as well, okay? If we're not encouraging growth, and we can talk about design corridors and everything else, and all it does is drive up the cost. And we are Lake Charles, Louisiana. We're a great area, but at the end of the day, there's only so much what people can do and afford. And if people aren't buying houses, and I don't care if it's $5,000 and these guys are making all the money and everything else, if there's nothing to sell them, you're not getting any more tax money. If you're not fixing the ones that are broken right now, because there's a good subdivision out there that the word's out, the sewer's backing up, and we haven't done anything because we've been playing with this and doing whatever since 2017. Okay, so it's all about the growth when it comes to that, and encouraging growth for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Mr. Todd Cormier. Name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, Todd Cormier, 2885 Highway 14 East. For those of y'all who do know me, my father started the Murphy Cormier General Contractors and Hoot Sewer Systems back in 1971. We are a local business, have been here, and through the years we've grown our mission statement to protecting the environment today for the future. We are blessed that we're in 27 states, and we sit on many boards, we sit on a lot of committees to help improve waterways, improve effluent. But I wear two hats. That hat, I've had the pleasure to work with this staff. Commend Terry Freelow. Him and I converse almost monthly on how to improve and make our waterways better, make our treatment processes better. They have put out a tremendous effort in the last 6 months and involved me, and for that I'm thankful. However, the other hat that I wear is we have a utility company called Clean Water. We formed that company to take care of large municipal sewer treatment systems that are put in on site for communities just like we're talking about, and to be the good actor to take care of it, and it is a money-making venture. All of these systems, every one, like Mr. Wainwright said, is governed by the DEQ. They are the enforcement agency. They are the police. They are not fast-moving, but you have to pass your test. You have to apply and get approved to do it. So when the first owner gets approved to do it, if he wants to sell it, it has to go through DEQ. Whoever is the responsible party, subject to jail time, is going to take it, if y'all follow what I'm trying to say. So the problem that I have with the clean water side is the forced mandate that the good actors, that my business that we built, Clean Water, that I had to get Public Service Commission approval for, give them a business model, is now being in danger of completing my agreements that I had with the Public Service Commission, that I would generate enough revenue to support the community and support the business and not go by way and have to sell it,
Okay.
as well as furthering it.
Thank you, Mr. Cormier.
Yes, thank y'all.
Mr. Alan Cross.
Good evening, my name is Alan Cross. I live at 1416 Cameron Court in one of my own subdivisions. Rarely does the easy solution solve a problem, but right now we're choosing to take the easy solution. The proposed ordinance affects not only our parish developers, but it also affects us as a whole. Mr. Marcantel in the meeting last week, or this week, made a good point. We do make a lot of money, but we also bring in a lot of money to the city. But at the same time, we take a great risk. And that great risk I'm talking about, when I moved up here in 2008, I put my money, started my company, and within 2 years, I went bankrupt. I lost everything I had. With that said, I had a great family, a great wife that backed me up, supported me, and made sure we got back on our feet. So for me to come over and just turn over $650,000 to y'all and not get any payback on it, I'm not asking y'all to pay it back. I'm asking the people who live in my community to pay it back through that way. I proposed an sorry, I get nervous, but
Take your time.
I gave a speech to Mr. Wainwright 4 months ago, a presentation. I guarantee you nobody else has seen it except 1 or 2 of y'all. We're not asking the parish to pay us back. We're asking to be paid back by the people that live there in our own community. Nobody else's community, but the people that choose to buy one of my houses. Right now, I am able to compete with the big tract home builders because I can defer that cost and get my money back the next 10, 15 years. If I have to eat that cost and add more money to my lots, guess what? The taxpayer who buys my house pays more for that house, and they're also paying more for their sewer through y'all. My rate right now is cheaper than the parish in Moss Bluff. And through y'all's rates, I can explain that to y'all. But, so you're asking the taxpayer to pay more for my house, and you're asking them to pay more for a sewer. That's not right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross.
Mr. President, Mr.
Mr.
Cross,
Landry.
if you would, okay, I have a question. They would be paying more, but they're getting more. And this is my opinion. They're getting more in that they're not gonna have some other party out of state 10 years from now that owns that won't come do the maintenance on the system. So, you know, they may not understand that, but they are getting a different product, a better product up front by not having to deal with that 10 years down the road.
I disagree.
And I know, and they did get with us and about all your points that you made. I'm sure they told us all. I know I got the information. And I realize that's your business model. That's how you do business. I think you charge part of it, and we spoke on the phone. You charge part of that cost up front, and then the other part of it you're getting later. But there's also other developers in this parish. They're getting all the money out of the lot and the house. They're not getting, you know, they're done. They don't want it, they get done. I understand y'all are operating differently, but it can be done. Other people are doing it that way.
Yes, those big builders have billions of dollars behind them. I don't. And you're saying the constituents getting the same, better service than if we do. We were proposing the first meeting that the parish was going to not turn it over, but the parish was going to use the same operators that I'm using. So I disagree on that point because if
I think you do a good job. I'm not.
I agree, but I agree.
We're 10 years down the road.
If I'm using Booth Environmental and y'all use Booth Environmental, it's the same thing. So don't say they're getting a better product 10 years down the road. They're getting the same product because we're using the same contractor who's licensed in the state of Louisiana.
How long do you keep them?
I'm sorry, I'm in mine right now for 12 years. And I've used Booth Environmental.
Are you going to keep it forever, or are you going to sell it, or?
Okay, that's the point right there. If y'all want to put something in the ordinance, say, hey, listen, you have first right refusal to take it over if I want to sell it or get rid of it. Let's do it that way. Don't take it away from me from the beginning. Let me operate it the way I did in business. When I sat there in the first meeting in June, y'all said this has been going on since 2017. We were brought to the first meeting in June. We were told, and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, we were told we're not going to change your business model. After 2.5 hours in that same meeting, I guess we are going to change your business model. So we need to negotiate in good faith. I'm willing to give up some of my pennies and nickels to help, but right now you're taking all my money. And if y'all do this, I can't go, we have 80 other acres on North Perkins. I can't go to the other side and do this under this model, because I can't compete with the big boys. I'm a local developer. I'm not from here, but I've been here for 17 years. So I consider myself local. So if you want to take it away from me, you're going to be taking away a lot more than that.
Yeah, and I appreciate your response. I mean, I don't agree with, I would rather buy the product from you than some big out of town, these guys that come in and build these huge subdivisions.
But you're saying you don't want to buy it, y'all said earlier y'all don't want to buy them from people. That's off the table. I'm okay with that. I don't want it to be bought from me.
I'm talking about me as a consumer buying a lot in a house. I would rather buy it from a local person than one of these big developers. That's me, and I think a lot of people would rather do that. They don't want to buy these spec homes and all that from those people that are just throwing these things together. I think I would get a better product from you than I would from those other people, and I'm going to pay more for that.
But you're taking me out of the game.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Michael, whoever's at 419 Alamo.
Hey, Michael Hankins, 419 Alamo Street. Sorry for the handwriting there. Never been a strength of mine. Just a couple of things I just wanted to touch on. I know we talked, I heard a few things kind of going back and forth about, other options and stuff. It doesn't sound like a lot of that has maybe been fully explored. I know that was first initially kind of on the table about possibly, requiring a bond from operators or some other way to make sure get a little bit more of your talons in them to make sure that they operate these things fairly. But that seems to be off the table, and now we're talking about the parish owning these systems. And I think that if we are talking about the parish owning these systems, then the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement, or PPP, kind of the buzzword these days, is a good route to go. Because otherwise, what we're talking about is we're talking about the taking of an asset. Here we are in Southwest Louisiana, a place I never thought we'd be talking about this. We're talking about the taking of an asset without any compensation for it. And so what this Cooperative Endeavor Agreement does is it kind of breaks out the fees between a return of capital and an ongoing maintenance. And so that's all we're talking about, right? Anytime you have, we mentioned roads and infrastructure and that. This is not the same thing because this generates income, right? So anytime a parish or city or whatever would build a sewer plant, part of the fees for the sewer is going to be to reimburse for that capital improvement. And that's all we're talking about here. That money needs to be reimbursed to the person who made the outlay of the capital improvement, and that way, it's kind of a fair and equitable sharing of these sewer fees that these folks are paying. And so that's really what we were talking about. That's what the deferral would be about, is to discuss how to do that, how to make that, in an ordinance that fits for everybody. And then we can look, as Police Jurywoman Easton said, we can look at what other people have done. And that's the great thing about having a parish like this. There's 1,000 parish and counties around the country, thousands. We can see what everybody's done, and we can try to, try to follow that, the things that work, and try to do something new for the things that don't work. So that's just my opinion on it.
Thank you, Mr. Hankins. Mr. Hardner Klump.
I'll yield my time. I don't think I can say anything that these guys haven't said already.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Robin Bassoni.
Robin Bassoni, 1010 Lakeland Drive, Lake Charles. I'm not a developer. I'm not a realtor. I'm here as an concerned citizen. I am retired from Louisiana Department of Health. I have 35 years in wastewater regulation and wastewater permitting, and I don't think this ordinance is the answer. If the maintenance of these larger sewer systems are to protect our citizens that connect to these community homes and or protect our waterways because of EPA requirements, which is a huge concern, I think the better Better avenues would be grant monies to develop community sewer systems that are installed and maintained and owned by the parish. But taking these new developments out of the hands of small contractors like Mr. Cross is going to be very detrimental to our residential development. That's all I have. Thank you. I want to say your job is probably mostly thankless. I thank you for your service and your time to the parish, and I ask for your consideration in voting against and not approving this ordinance, and that we come back to the table and write something that works for everybody and protects everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pisoni. Let's see. Louis Barb. Thank you, sir. Mr. Blake Soto.
Blake Soto, 728 Cleveland Street, and I'll thank you all for being here and hearing us out. Having come into this kind of on the tail end, I come to you, one, to ask you to vote no, so that we can start, hopefully, a more collaborative approach to these types of ordinances. I think that it would be incredible to create the committees, as one of the jurors discussed tonight, to between jurors and stakeholders to come together in a collaborative approach towards whether it's sewer treatment ordinances or zoning overlays. I think that we should ask you to strongly consider doing that. And so I ask you to vote no and invite us to collaborate with you, and let's put a timeline on it. Let's say in 12 months we're going to have a sewer ordinance adopted that addresses both the new systems but also the old systems, because it sounds like there is quite a bit that needs to be included. So I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Mr. Ralph Lewing.
Other than Joe, I'm probably the oldest one in here. Ralph Lewing, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 2001 Charvet Drive. This part doesn't count on my 2 minutes, but congratulations, Judd. I like Judd. We only agree about 10% of the time, but he's always open for a discussion. So as most of y'all are, and I appreciate that. I just want to say one thing in that APG, the A stands for Alliance, the P stands for Positive, and the G stands for Growth. Alliance for Positive Growth. That says it all right there. What I have to say isn't so much about the ordinance as it is trying to create more collaboration between the jurors, the business community, the stakeholders, the citizens of the community, and staff. You know, I've always been a firm believer in not trying to tell a man what to do with his land. I don't like being told what to do with my land. But I've always conformed. But in the past, in my past years of dealing with the parish, staff was smaller. We had more one-on-one discussions. And I know there was a lot of things that probably slipped through the cracks. There was bad developers back then. But I would like to see, I guess more than anything is, I'd like to see more harmony between all parties concerned. Laura changed the whole dynamics of the business world in Calcasieu Parish. A lot of these guys you see out here, as myself, we're business people. I don't know if any of the staff's in business, but we're business people. What a lot of people don't realize is a lot of the money that's invested in this community is from out of town. A lot of the people that own these buildings are from out of town. We had to do a whole lot of talking, scratching, talking to people, scrambling to get together reports to show what the future is going to look like, that we're going to come back. Because a lot of the people from out of town wanted to take their insurance money and leave. You know what we'd have been stuck with? We'd have been stuck with a bunch of tore up buildings and nobody to buy them. You can go look on Highway 14 right now at one of those.
Mr. Lewin, whenever you go ahead and complete your thought, please.
Well, can I have one of their 2 minutes? They deferred.
I don't think, no, sir, no.
But anyway, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I want y'all to think about that. I want you to think about when you make your decision tonight, because every decision you make, investors are looking at what goes on here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Kenny Nichols?
I think he left.
Is that?
I'll pass on my down there. They covered it really well.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Matt Red.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barris, and congratulations. You've come a long way from W.W. Lewis. Look, guys, and Ms. Eason, this is important to all of us. Mr. Stelly, you know, and your concern about the incentives. I know we're all familiar with ITEP, and when industry rolls into this town, we roll out the red carpet. We give them no property tax for a number of years, and it's a great thing, and it brings in industry. But we have got to get smart about and be thinking about ways to incentivize the local people that are trying to do business in this town. And when we say this process is broke, it is broke, because we've got to get the stakeholders and the people that this truly affects involved in this process before it gets, you give me 2 minutes at a podium. Before you give me 2 minutes at a podium. And yes, we've been to a number of meetings, and I can give you examples going from November till tonight, to where we talked to staff. Y'all deferred it in early November. We didn't get a phone call. My phone didn't ring. There wasn't an email saying, hey, what do we need to do? The jury has told us we need to work with stakeholders. We called them. And we had a meeting with them. And Dane and I had a very good conversation about incentives. And he asked us, go find out. Matt, that's a good idea. Let's find out how we can do that. How does it work? Alan says we can't do it. A, B, C, D, you know, it's illegal. We spend our money, and Mr. Barris, I appreciate a little more time. We spent our money and went out and sought these attorneys in Baton Rouge that have done it on the incentive side. Nobody's seen an ordinance like this on the sewer side, because it doesn't exist in the state.
Yes, sir.
This is brand new.
Yes, sir.
But we went and spent and gave the staff, met with them on the 12th of December, gave them a white paper that said, hey, here's how these incentives can work. Here's how it can happen. And what takes place from there? We don't have a meeting until January the 7th. 2 days ago. Of course, we had the holiday. 4 of y'all showed up. and I believe 4 of y'all learned something.
Yes, sir.
But here we are tonight with 2 minutes of our time to ask you to defer something, which y'all didn't. And I'm begging y'all to vote no. And let's put a committee together. We got some smart people in this room. It's not me. It ain't me. I can talk about fecal matter, but but seriously, let's vote no, but not to kick this can down the road, Chris. We want to fix it more than you do. We got a vested interest in this parish more than you, or as much as you. Sorry. And let's vote no. Let's put a committee together of jury, staff, and professionals, and let's get this done. Whether it's 6 months, 12 months, are there 10 subdivisions in the queue that are pressing that we got to get this done tonight? No.
Thank you, Mr. Red. I
So let's do this
appreciate
the
it.
right way.
Okay.
Thank
Yes, sir.
y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Red. That, any jurors? So we'll go,
I just have
okay,
one
Mr.
more comment, and it doesn't matter who answers it. My main concern, and I've used this term, my main concern is that the parish doesn't buy a pig in a sack down the road, okay? That we don't inherit something that somebody just decided all of a sudden that they don't want to run it anymore, or if they die and their family doesn't want to take it over anymore. What happens to that system? What gives us the guarantee that when we have to take that system over that's even in working condition? What guarantee do we have of that? But if you want, with permission, the guy can come up to the podium.
Mr. Barris, public comment's over. The discussion now is among the jurors.
The public comment's over,
Okay,
sir.
I'm sorry. But is there an answer to my question? Yes. From anyone? I would like the question answered.
I mean, you're just asking it open-ended, like.
Well, I know, but
Anybody in the room?
This has kind of been open-ended
You want
all
to phone a
night,
friend?
that's me, but.
Mr. President, if I could, that may be the reason we need to defer it and talk about it some more. So maybe that's why we
Well,
need
I've
to have
asked
those
a question to
conversations.
3 people on the telephone, they couldn't answer me.
And, Mr. President, maybe that's why we need to take a look at this again and answer those questions for you, Mr. Stelly.
Mr. Barris, if I may.
Mr. Wainwright.
I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll take a stab at what I believe has been talked about along those lines in all these meetings. And I think it's on one of our slides, the slides of the proposal, basically a bond of some sort being included, added to, on top of, however you want to say it, to the monthly bill. Put in some form of an escrow account and there to fix the system upon, at the end of the day, if it gets transferred, that kind of concept. And on the surface, all of these concepts sound like, hey, we should look into that. And we have. The problem with the escrow account, I think Mr. Brent Clemens, when he was on the jury, was pushing for this as well, is the ownership, the operation of it, and who's going to make the call on what's going to be fixed and what's not going to be fixed. If it's not enough money, who's coming up with the rest of the money? If it's too much money, who gets the excess money? If we don't agree that something needs to be fixed, who makes the call? And again, you can attempt to legislate this with a bigger, thicker ordinance book. But all of this, as you get out into multiple developers and owners, you're going to have some guys, it's just like we've been describing across the board. Some guys are going to be one phone call, they're going to go fix it with their escrow account. Some guys, we will never get them to spend the money. We won't be able to agree on what's broke and what ain't broke. And all I'm telling you is, or suggesting is, these systems in the middle, if you would, these processes will get terribly complicated
this gets even, to me, it gets worse, and I guess I'm the one having to sit here and sort of think through some of these, is when we have multiple layers of these systems, trains, if you will, in one subdivision, running through one another, and one has made its way over to us, but now the next one's broke. Who's broke? Who's creating the effluent not working? Who's pumped? All those things. So, in essence, it gets complicated. It's easy to think about that idea. It's just going to be hard for the future staffs of Calcasieu Parish to work through managing that and doing it. I'm not suggesting it's impossible. It's just, again, I think that all those systems get complicated. We're going to find ourselves at odds with the developers. And there's going to be some bad days along that trail, is all I'm suggesting. So think about that before you just buy off on, let's set money aside for the maintenance of it. Remember, in your fee and in some of their fee, the maintenance is already supposed to be built into that fee, not an on-top fee. So again, I think it's a good discussion. We have had it. I don't suggest that you get into that. I'll take that. I hope I've conveyed to you why. It's just, that's going to lead us down to another set of problems of who's calling the shots. And again, I don't think we can write a thick enough book for all the scenarios that may come up. I'd rather you not do that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Stelly. Miss Easton?
I just have a question. Are these systems subject to annual inspection? Is it required, and who does it, and who gets the report, and so forth? How does that work?
Well, Ms. Bassani, who was here, knows as much about this as anybody, and all these guys do. They're subject to monthly testing, annual testing on the permit side of it. Every bit of it makes you create an effluent coming out the end that is acceptable to the environment, and those systems we're speccing will do it. They will meet regulation if they're running right. That's what. But there's no process, and there's certainly not an easy one to go in and start saying that Terry Freelo's staff is going to go there monthly and inspect someone's private system now and tell them they need to do a different form of maintenance because we don't agree that you're greasing the motor enough or any of those things. So if you start trying to manage their business for them, then we're going to get it. You understand what happens when you go to the individual homes now. Wes has to go there and tell someone to fix their sewer system. He could probably tell you they disagree at every house. They suggest it's running fine. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's not as easily done as it is said.
Actually, I have a home in my neighborhood that's been doing that for 4 months. That loud ringing. So I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Mr. Bowers?
Thank you, Mr. President. I feel like this is much bigger than a sewage issue. KPLC reported on the website and quoted or highlighted some things in an article that said Lake Charles is the slowest growing real estate economy in the nation right now. If we continue to deter investors and deter developers to this area, I'm worried that poses an even bigger problem than sewage down the road. I know I'm new here. I know I still have a lot to learn. But from what I understand from these 15 individuals up here, none of us have an expertise in large-scale development. There's members out here, on the other hand, that do. And it sounds like to me that they are united, they are loud, and they are clear that we oppose this for their sake, for their livelihood, for their businesses, and for the future of Calcasieu Parish. I yield my time back.
Thank you, sir.
Call to question.
Roll call, regular. In the A's.
All right. Mr.
it ain't. Repeat the motion, please.
The motion is to approve the ordinance.
So a yes would be approve.
Ready? Mr. Abshire?
No.
Mr. Anderpont?
No.
Mr. Barty?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers?
No.
Mr. Burley?
No.
Ms. Eason?
No.
Mr. Guillory?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Markentile?
No.
Mr. Quinn?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stelly?
Yes.
Six in favor and 8 against, which would mean that the motion fails.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2C. Adopt an ordinance establishing a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit and canceling the existing 30-mile-an-hour blanket speed limit on Kimo Drive, West Raphael Square, and North Michael Square. Motion by Mr. Quinn, second by Mr. Stelly. Any discussion? Motion carries. 2D, adopt an ordinance establishing no parking on Lake Street from the intersection of West Tank Farm Road for 1 mile south to West Lincoln Road. I got a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Markentile. Any questions? Any discussion? Motion carries. 2E,
Move on to E.
adopt a resolution approving the submittal of a grant application to the Louisiana Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness for the 2024 Flood Mitigation Assistance Swift Current Grant Program for acquisition and/or elevation of flood-prone residential structures. I have a motion by Mr. Markentile and a second by Mr. Quinn. Any discussion? Motion carries. 3A,
Move on
approve the
3A.
minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated December 5, 2024. Motion by Mr. Abshire, second by Mr. Barty. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. 3B, adopt a resolution in support of Mr.
Move
Eddie
on
Lewis
3B.
Jr. in his candidacy for member at large on the Executive Board of Police Jury Association of Louisiana. We got a motion by Ms. Eason and a second by Mr. Burley. Any discussion?
Can we have a roll call?
Can we have another roll call?
Any objection?
Y'all wasn't supposed to say
I don't
that.
think we're gonna make it.
Good luck, Mr. Eddie. 4A, approve applications
Move on
for
4A.
liquor and beer
Second.
permits. Got a motion by Mr. Abshire, standing, and second by Mr. Bowers. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries.
Move on 4B.
Adopt ordinances allowing for disposition of the police jury's interest in and donation of adjudicated properties at 104 Railroad Avenue in the city of Sulphur. I got a motion by Mr. Anderpont, second by Mr. Markentile. Any discussion? Any questions? Motion carries. 5A, adopt a resolution approving items related to Act 776 funding from the 2024 regular legislative session.
Move on 5A.
Motion by Mr. Markentile, second by Mr. Guillory. Any discussion? Any
Hope
questions?
it's not something I didn't read into it.
Motion carries.
Move on 6A.
Approve payment of all current invoices. Motion by Mr. Anderpont, second by Mr. Stelly. Any questions? Any discussion? Motion carries. 6B, advertise for
6B.
bids for East Calcasieu Parish Consolidated Waterworks Project Phase 4. Any objection? Any discussion? Motion carries. 6C, adopt a resolution on bids received by the parish purchasing agent on December 10th, 2024 for East Calcasieu Parish Consolidated Waterworks Project Phase 34. I got a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Ms. Eason. Any objection? Any discussion? Staff recommends the low bid of Hackley Enterprises LLC in the amount of $1,588,089.03 be accepted. 6D,
So move.
adopt a resolution on bids for the East Calcasieu Parish Consolidated Waterworks Project Phase 6. Staff recommends the low bid of Blake D. Hines Incorporated in the amount of $1,751,355 be accepted. I got a motion by Mr. Guillory and a second by Mr. Barty. Any discussion? Any objection? Item carries. Let's see. Adopt a resolution on bids for the Louisiana Highway 397 Booster Station Project. Staff recommends the low bid of Alfred Palmer LLC in the amount of $1,709,000 be accepted. I got a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Bowers. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. 6F, adopt a resolution on bids for the ultraviolet disinfection system replacement project.
Move on 6F.
Staff recommends the bid of Toulier Services LLC in the amount of $404,250 be accepted. I've got a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Barty. Any discussion? Any objection? Item carries. 6G, adopt a resolution on bids for the CPSO mainline water meter installation project. Staff recommends the bid of Hackley Enterprises LLC in the amount of $449,601.64 be accepted. I got a motion by Mr. Barty and a second by Mr. Bowers. Any discussion? Any objection? Item carries. 6H, adopt a resolution accepting miscellaneous roadway improvements of various roads as substantially complete. I got a motion by Mr. Markentile and a second by Mr. Quinn. Any discussion? Any objection? Item carries. 6J.
Move on 6J.
Move on. 6I. 6I, excuse me. Adopt a resolution accepting West Calcasieu Parish Road and drainage rehabilitation as substantially complete. I got a motion by Mr. Bowers and a second by Mr. Burley. Any discussion? Any objection?
6J.
Item passes. 6J, adopt a resolution accepting Edgerly to Quincy Road and drainage rehabilitation as substantially complete. I have a motion by Mr. Andrepont and a second by Mr. Markentile. Any discussion? Any objection? Item carries. Board appointments. 7A, Board of Control of the Calcasieu Parish Public Library
Move
System.
to appoint Mr. Hartner Clump.
Okay. Motion to confirm appointment of Mr. J. Hardner Clump.
Second.
Motion by Mr.
Motion to
Abshire,
approve.
second by Mr. Bowers.
Appoint Mr. Arnold.
Second.
No,
No.
appoint Miss Demise.
Motion to appoint Ms. Demise by Mr. Markentile and second by Mr. Abshire. Any discussion? Any objection? Item carries. 7B, Community Center and Playground District Number 4 of Ward 1. Move to appoint Mr. Matt Trahan. That's Mr. Quinn, and seconded by Mr. Markentile. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Is that groovy? David Nixon? Yeah, that's it. Congratulations. 7D, Ward 2 Fire Protection District 2-1.
Move on 7D.
Number 1.
Reappoint Julian Fox. Can I go on with the other two?
Yes.
Move to reappoint Blaine Harrington and reappoint Mr. F.J. Sylvester.
Second. So we got a motion to reappoint on all three bullets. What's that?
Mr. Mayor, so you can just finish off on 7D, we'll go back to 7C.
Yeah, 7C.
You did.
You skipped
I did
7C.
that.
Skip 7C.
You've got a
Did
motion and a second on 7D,
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Mayor,
we
so
got
you can just
7C.
finish that one and then we'll
We
go
did
back to 7C.
7B, and then we didn't do 7.
Okay, I got you. So the motion on 7D, all bullets. Any discussion? Any objections? 7D is carries. 7C, Ward 1 Fire Protection District Number 1.
Second.
Appoint Mr. David Nixon. Any discussion? Any objection? That item carries. All right, we good on B?
Yeah, we're on 7E now.
7E, okay, go back. All right, Ward 6 Fire Protection District
Reappoint
number
Billy
1.
Second.
Motion to reappoint Mr. Billy Mitchell by Mr. Markentile, second by Mr. Burley.
For 30 days on Mr. Arant.
And motion to defer 30 days for Mr. Arant by Mr. Markentile, second by Mr. Burley.
Yes.
Any discussion? Any objection? Item carries. Board advise.
We got 7F.
Move on
Yeah.
7F to reappoint
Okay.
Amanda Hubert.
Second.
Waterworks District number 10 of Ward 7, reappoint Mr. Amanda Hubert. Mr. Markentile makes the motion. Mr. Bowers seconds. Discussion? Objections? None. Item carries. Item 8 is board advise. Item 9 is board advise. Item 10, adopt a resolution of condolences to be forwarded to the family of the late Frank LaBarbera.
Move to approve. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Andrepont, a second by Mr. Landry. Mr. Andrepont.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know most of you know Mr. LaBarbera. He was well-known in waste management and was involved in that business for many, many years. Comes from a family that's very well respected in Sulphur. I remember when his dad was a dentist. And, you know, Frank was always, he and his family cared about the community. He served 17 years as a board member for West Cowcam Hospital. I can tell you he cared about that hospital and did a lot of good things. So I just ask that you keep his family in your prayers. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Andrepont. Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, Frank was a good guy. I mean, he really was fun to be around, and he was something. He was a different individual. I'll tell a story, and he probably did that. I know he did it to more than just me, but it's a clean Frank story, so it's not too bad. I'd known him for like years, and if you'd go to lunch or wherever you go with Frank, he'd always talk about his wife. I mean, you know, he just did a lot. He would always bring her up, and but I had never met her. And I mean, it like several years would go by. I mean, I'd probably known him at least 10 years. And one night we had some event, and me and my wife was there, and Frank, you know, knows my wife. And he said, "Hey, have y'all ever met my first wife?" And I thought, I didn't know he had more than one wife, you know. And I was just like, "What did you say?" I didn't say anything. He was like, "No, I never met her." And so, he motioned to her, come. He introduced us, like, "This is my first wife." And just like, okay, well, of course, he set me up because he's only got one wife. There's never been any more. And so, and then he walks away like it's no big deal. And then I'm like, well, heck, who's his wife now? And then I'm thinking, is she here also? And do those two get along? I mean, I was thinking all kinds of things. And then I found out, like, Beverly or somebody said, he's messing with you. He's only got one wife. There's only been one. But yeah, he was something. He was funny. Good guy. He's going to be missed, without a doubt.
Mr. Gilreath.
Yeah, and I just want to say, every time I would talk to him, it'd be like, "Hey, my little brother." He probably said that to a lot of people, "Hey, my little brother," but he's going to be missed. He really helped us out a lot of times when we would call him for a lot of new jurors who never dealt with him. He really helped us out. So, thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, I'll entertain